We're running a live service game. People can't be off for the next 3 months, but that's what happens in Sweden because we take our summer vacations very seriously. We did not make Helldivers for 6 million Call of Duty players, but we do now have 6 million Call of Duty players who've bought our game.
Hello and welcome to the Game Business Show with me, Christopher Dring. Today we are speaking with the new-ish CEO of Arrowhead, Shams Jorjani, 12 months on from the surprise success of Helldivers 2. If you're new to the Game Business Show, we are a brand new media brand all about the business of video games. We have our show, which you're either watching or listening to right now, our newsletter, we have a website, and we're even doing live events, including one in LA in June. We usually put out a show every Tuesday and Thursday, but we often drop bonus episodes. If you don't want to miss a beat and want to keep up to date with all the big breaking stories, head to thegamebusiness.com and stick in your email in there. That way, you won't miss anything. But that's enough of that. Shams, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, we spoke last year when you took this job of being the CEO of Arrowhead. Is it quite a year?
No, it's 9 months, but in a year in Arrowhead is 7 normal years. So it's been quite a while, it feels like, especially in the first year of Helldivers. It's been one heck of a roller coaster on a year, but I mean, that's why I took the job, because I wanted a fun adventure, and oh boy, has it been an adventure.
Well, it certainly started very strongly. Johan, who's, I think, stepping away now for a little bit, taking a bit of a sabbatical. Have you been able to successfully keep him away from the running of the studio?
Yes. I mean, Johan and I have known each other for 16 years, and he wouldn't have asked me to join unless he felt, I hope so, he could trust me. So I think we naturally fell into a rhythm of being able to support each other. We talk often in role-playing terms, and we're both multi-class, and he's the game designer first and the business person second class, and I'm the reverse. So we kind of find a natural kind of rhythm in that and riff of each other. But it's been good.
Do you feel like then you've lost your important partner in crime?
Yeah, the Chewbacca to my Han Solo, as I referred to. You would hate that. No, but it's... So one of the reasons he took the job, obviously, was like, he's been doing this for 16 years, nonstop. Really never been on a vacation either, because he's always been doing what he's loved. And as a CEO, generally, for a startup, you do not get to take time off. So it was after the launch was absolutely amazing. It took everyone by surprise. And then we had a number of months of scrambling. And then it's been this roller coaster, so Sony does something, and then we kind of recover, and then we shoot ourselves in the foot, and then we do something to come back, and then shoot us in the foot again, and then up and down and up and down. And then finally, I think when we came to Christmas, it became clear that the man needed to take a proper vacation and time to play some other games. So that's really what he's doing, taking a bit of time off. We're going for beers in a couple of days, but it sounds like he's recuperating.
This is the thing. It was a shock success.
Yeah,
you've had to go on this learning journey, right? And obviously we've got a publisher in Sony that isn't a live service expert either, or at least these sort of games. And it sounds like it's been a baptism.
That's exactly what it's been. It's been. I think it took us all by surprise, and then I think Sony knew, and we knew, that we were not fully a full-fledged live service studio, because we absolutely were not. So it took 8 years to make this game. Arrowhead was always used to doing post-launch support with DLC and stuff, and quite a lot of it, but it's a different thing to be a live service. So there was a mad scramble to kind of keep up with the intense success. And, the saving grace was that this was a troubled development cycle. It took 8 years to make, and it shouldn't take 8 years to make a game. But during those 8 years, a lot of stuff was made and put to the side, and we put them in what we call the cellar. So after the mad release of Helldivers, we were like, oh shit, we need to release stuff because the players are screaming for stuff. So all the stuff that we planned, we had to kind of get out faster. And then we kept reaching into the cellar, pulled something out, and we're like, okay, what if we just, fix this up? And that's, we just kept jamming out stuff. And that was the saving grace that allowed us to keep the momentum going those first few months. And we peaked at around 750,000 players. And then over time it went down, and then the honeymoon kind of ended, and we started running out of stuff to do, and we also ran out of stamina. So when I was asked to step in May of last year, they gave me the keys to the car, and they told me, we're going off on summer vacation because we haven't been taking a lot of vacation over the last few summers. And I was like, we're running a live service game. People can't be off for the next 3 months, but that's what happens in Sweden because we take our summer vacations very seriously. So it was rocky there, and then we kind of came back. But then we had the Sony account linking kind of adventure, and it turns out that when you've made a game that trains the community to gather around communal goals, they were very good at showing what their pleasure and displeasure. So we went down to like 30 in user score, and usually that's the death knell for a game, right? But we came back from that. And then we fumbled with balancing and the focus for the game, and that sent us all the way down to 19%, I think was the lowest.
Oh, wow.
And like games that get 19% user score do not generally recover. And maybe the lowest point during my tenure so far, there's going to be many more, I think, was during the summer when everyone was away. Our user score was down to 19, and I had to get on a call with Herman Hulst and explain to the CEO of Sony why things were in the state they were and what we were doing to kind of recover. And I had to say the awkward, truth that there is nothing we can do in the immediate short term to resolve this. But in the long term, we have plans that will get us back on track. And we issued a 60-day plan that put us back on the track. And we did an update and an update and an update. And I was very much inspired by No Man's Sky and the team over there that had a similar kind of journey. Very hyped, then bombed, and then they put their head to the grindstone and just updated the game. And since September, we've been on a very good trajectory, but we've been just pendulating between it's so over and we're so back, and it's become a meme within the community. But we went from 19 to 94 positive on Steam.
Oh, wow. Like the MCU, but in like one title.
Exactly. And this is it's exactly 12 months since launch, but all of these things I described to you happened during the last 9 months. It's been a real roller coaster, and we're still coming to grips with the phenomenon that this is. Like, Arrowhead and myself have been involved with releasing successful games, but it's always hard to gauge how much of a phenomenon it becomes and how much of it wins hearts and minds, right? And it touches people in a lot of different ways, and that's why we love it.
What reassured me, we've got data partners like Ampere and stuff that share with us a little bit of information. What reassured me is that winning over lots of players at the beginning, we've seen games do that a lot. Yeah. But the challenge is obviously, particularly in the live service space, is that people have probably got a game that they left in order to play your game. Yeah. And then they just end up going back to that game eventually, because that's where they've spent their time, it's where they've spent their money, it's where their friends are, which I guess probably happened to you as well. Yeah. But then I looked at the numbers in December and I'm like, oh, you've got those people now that are coming back to your game. You are now one of those titles. Absolutely. And we know that the players on Steam, at least, we know that they try new things, but they generally then go back to their old titles. And most of the games they play are, up to 7-year-old games. New games have a very hard time. But I think that's due to the hard work of the developers. We've managed to kind of cement ourselves as one of the go-to co-op social games that people play. People have drifted off from PvP games and are playing PvE Helldivers now. But it's been a real journey in that sense. And I really, it's the core gameplay loop plus the Game Master feature that really pulls it off, I think. You're right on the numbers, is that we managed to, for the December release that was timed with the TGAs and winning a couple of awards, we reactivated and got 250,000 players back into the game. So that was the peak again in December. Is that concurrent? Concurrent, yeah. Wow. Well, you talked about, okay, you weren't a live service studio. Arrowhead wasn't a live service studio and now sort of is. Has there been much change then behind the scenes? Some change. And I think this has been the real challenge, right? Because one of the things that was really important to us here in the studio was to have manageable growth. And what happens with a lot of companies when they hit, you have the financial means, you start hiring. And I think it's that classic Jeff Goldblum quote from Jurassic Park. We were so preoccupied with if we could, we didn't talk about if we should. And
from my history, having been at companies that have grown very rapidly and worked with a lot of companies that have grown rapidly, I know what happens when there is uncontrolled, very rapid growth, and it can lead to disastrous effects. And I was very conscious about not growing too fast within our walls and just doing this in a sustainable way. So that required a bit of hard calls on our part. And we said, it's going to take a bunch of months for us to figure out some of these things to do live service our way, because we can't take the playbook from Apex or Dota or Dark Tide and say it's going to work for us, because every game is different. And we wanted to do it in a way where we stayed true to the tenets of the company, which is a game for everyone is a game for no one. That's how we make games. We wanted to do it in a way that was respectful of our developers' work-life balance. And also, I wanted to do it in a way that lived up to one of the mandates I have as a CEO, as I was brought in. One of the mandates is run a profitable games company, but it also is to be a force of good in the industry. And what I want us to do is to be kind of a role model for how to do sustainable growth. Because what we're seeing in the industry today is that the industry is not in a good place. And a lot of companies are shedding a lot of jobs. And it's not the people on the top who are losing their jobs. It's a lot of people who have mortgages and families who've moved half across the world to take jobs, and then because of bad growth decisions made as a part of business leaders, because they've been unable to read the market or what's happening and taking stupid risks, has led to a lot of other people losing their jobs. So I want us to be on a path of sustainable growth, and that's why we're not hiring like crazy. We're growing a lot, some through our co-development partners, but that's been incredibly important to me, and that's what we want to be able to show to the industry, how this could be done, to be frank.
Code dev seems to be a direction lots of people are going in when they need to scale up fast.
Yeah.
The approach you've made.
Yeah. And there are multiple different reasons for it. First off, we're a studio that is based here in Stockholm. We have a strong belief that studios can be remote, but we have chosen not to focus heavily on remote, and we would like to be kind of local. So we want our core teams to come into the office and be available. We have a lot of people who do work remote, and they can stay remote for a very long time. So there are limitations in how much we can grow in Stockholm. I just can't get people to move to Stockholm. That's just the reality of it. The second thing is that we don't want to grow too much here, because there's just our culture transfer rate, as we call it, is what it is, and we can't and don't want to become a giant company of 200, 250 people where people don't know each other's names. But at the same time, we wanted, meet the business realities of the game. And there are co-development studios out there who have the skill set, the mindset, and interest in collaborating with us. A year ago, we were not working with many co-development studios, but now we're working with a handful and deepening those relationships. Some of them are embedded here in Stockholm. Others are nearby in the UK and other places.
Oh, okay. Has anything surprised you since taking the role? I know ultimately the game journey seems to have surprised you, but like anything else that's since taking on the role?
A couple of things. Like it's, again, the whole phenomenon thing is that, like, games can become popular, but I wouldn't say it's a religious experience. But for some, the game has been truly, truly unique. And I think sometimes we as developers can become myopic, because we've been living with Helldivers for quite a long time. And we've been thinking about the game master feature, but when we actually put it in the hands of the players, truly magic starts to happen, and it becomes a phenomenon in its own sense. An hour and a half ago, a planet in the game was blown up. It permanently was removed from the game, and people cannot go to that planet, Angel's Venture. This planet was the first planet that was opened up for battle when the game was launched, and now it doesn't exist as a result of a number of different events that were in the hands of the players. Had they made different choices, it would have been, maybe no planet would have been exploding. So this has been I did not anticipate how much people would lean into the role-playing aspect of this. Yeah. And there have been a couple of stories throughout the year that have been truly moving. We issue challenges to the players that take this planet and you'll get this reward, live service style, right? So the reward is you get these anti-tank mines, and then the players tried to take the planet and they failed. And then 3 weeks later, we were like, here's another planet. You take that planet, you take the arms factories, you get the anti-tank weapons. And again, they failed. Then again, we issued the same challenge. And we said, you can get the arms, you can get the mines if you take this planet, or you save this other planet that has sick kids in a hospital, or you can't save both. So it's up to you, the community, which one do you want to save? And the community overwhelmingly chose to go and get the sick kids. Digital, fictitious kids in this fascist, super society. But everyone role played the fantasy, and we made the donation to save the children. And again, with this planet thing, our concurrent player count jumped by 30,000 players who just logged in to see what the hell was going to happen with this planet as it blew up. It's like, if you want to talk about new stuff in terms of like surprising, I did not think that we would see this level of engagement or retention, if you want to call these kind of business. But truly, people are passionate about what's happening in the game thanks to this game master feature. So that's been one of the big surprising things. I think the other big surprising thing, and this is maybe gonna paint me in bad colors, is I came into this thinking that the relationship with PlayStation would be quite different. I have 12 years working at Paradox as a publisher. I assumed Sony, having paid a lot of money for this project, would exert a whole lot more control and run the show more or less, because what do these wild kids here in Sweden know? But I've been very pleasantly surprised to see how creator friendly PlayStation has been as a studio. Truly, truly impressive. And it's, there've been fumbles, of course, any company does, and, but they've been an amazing partner throughout. And I think that they have a bit too much flack from the community at times, but they've been truly, like, Helldivers would not exist if PlayStation was not so focused on creating cool stuff for players. Like, and I'm not blowing smoke up their ass. Like, they've been a genuinely good partner in this. So that's the second big surprising thing, I would say.
Huh. Going back to your thing about the Game Master thing, we talked earlier about live service and online games and people leaving and getting how to keep those people. Is it the Games Master element? Is it those story moments that's enabling you to keep players coming back?
I'll say it's a huge driver. Like, obviously, we try to put stuff out as fast as possible and as often as possible. But again, there's a limitation in how much stuff we can put out. And we had a faster pace in the beginning, and that led to quality problems. We slowed down. As we bring in on more code development, we'll probably get to leapfrogging so we can increase more. But I was talking to the Genshin Impact team. They have 1,500 developers working on stuff and releasing stuff regularly. Oh, wow. It's still not enough for the players. So despite us dropping really cool updates and new factions and new weapons and all this stuff, we just can't keep up, and nobody can keep up with the content. The other thing that keeps people going has been the role-playing factor and the Game Master feature and all the memes. And if you go onto our Discord and talk in universe voice, people just play along with the joke and satire of the IP. And that's the lovely part of it.
I went to Comic-Con in London in May last year, and I saw loads of people dressed up for characters in the game. And that game had been out a few months, and to suddenly see that immediately appear in a pop culture event, it's mind-boggling. And we live in strange times. It's 2025. Fascism is on the rise. So I don't know if that's playing into the uplift effect for the game, or maybe it's exactly what people need to be able to deal with the dark times that are surrounding us. I was on a call with another games publisher. I was talking about the two of the big game hits of last year, mentioning your one, but also mentioning Space Marine 2.
Yeah.
And he goes, what is it with space fascism in 2024?
The world is more polarized than it's ever been. And when you get games that paint things in black and white, it kind of rhymes with that, because reality is not black and white, despite people wanting to reduce it to that. But it's simple. It's escapism, I think, on some level.
Talked about so many of the challenges that you've overcome, and you seem to be in a good spot now, but what would you say are the biggest ones? What has been the thing that's been like, okay, was it that summer?
Yeah, the summer when I was there, the captain of a ship, the ship was tied to the dock, all the crew was on shore leave, and Sony were knocking on our door asking, what the hell are you doing? That wasn't great. But I would say like the real challenges has been for us to maintain our integrity. The slogan for the studio is a game for everyone is a game for no one. So we did not set out to design Helldivers for a wide audience. We made it for a niche audience. And our belief is that if you make an uncompromising game experience for a very specific audience, you have the ability to resonate far outside of it. Now, we've seen this happen many times in video games and even outside the games. From software games bucked the trend. They were very brutally hard, where every other game was about hand-holding. And that's, an entire genre, and a lot of success has been born out of that. Escape from Tarkov is the same thing. It bucks a lot of the PvP trends. And if I told my wife 10 years ago that we'll be watching 7 seasons of Game of Thrones about some dudes with swords running around and dragons, she was like, she would not be on board for that. But somehow she was on board for Game of Thrones, and then we're watching the next show. And HBO is very good at this, creating these uncompromising auteur visions, letting them come to life. So we did not make Helldivers for 6 million Call of Duty players. We absolutely didn't. But we do now have 6 million Call of Duty players who've bought our game.
Oh, wow.
And they are interested in different things compared to, say, the audience that comes from Escape from Tarkov or Arma, which were some of the more, influential games in that kind of game. So the summer of pain, or whatever we want to call it, was painful in part because it was hard for us to reconcile how to stay true to the studio fundamentals while dealing with the business realities of having so many different voices screaming at us. Yeah. And you kind of, I'll do a big GDC talk about this at some point, but to kind of boil it down, any modern game understands that their audience consists of many different segments, and it's very hard to give everyone everything they want at the same time. Destiny has PvP content, it has PvE content, it has story content, it has big raids. These are for different audiences, right? And Helldivers kind of puts everyone into the same funnel. And now we're getting to the point to kind of figure those things out. But the thing that had us kind of, lost was that we got away from the core fantasy. The box, it literally says on the box, kill monsters with overpowered weapons. And in our kind of strive to find balance, I think we ended up balancing the game in a way where the core fantasy kind of died. And that's when we got the backlash. So I think the real big challenge for us, yes, has it been hard to figure out how to work with a number of co-development studios, how to get stuff out every 6 weeks or whatever it is at a good quality and pace. We're still learning how to actively talk to the community, and we don't do this enough. But truly, it's been game direction for a game that's been in development before it reaches the audience is one thing. It's another thing once it's out. And I think maybe part of that is that Johan, passed on the torch to other folks. And his voice was needed, but he was not able to bring his voice to bear because he was also running a company. So a lot of these things have fallen into place. And I wouldn't say that we're out of the woods yet, but we're in a much better spot. And what we talk about always is that we want to be kind of a flagship studio. And we want to always be able to look back at ourselves 18 months ago, 6 months ago, and say, oh man, I'm so embarrassed about how we knew nothing back then. Oh, sweet summer child. And now we're maturing and learning more. So that onwards and upwards growth journey is very been important to us.
It's interesting. One of my favorite live service games in recent history is Sea of Thieves. And Sea of Thieves is a pirate game, right? Yeah. And I, like a bunch of people on Sea of Thieves, hate the piracy part of the game. I like hanging out with my friends on a ship, going on adventures, and it's fun. Yeah. And then somebody comes along, sinks my ship, and steals all my treasure, and I'm furious. I hate the game. I'm angry with the game. Yeah. And I think Rare had that issue. Was like, oh, hang on, all these people don't like that, so let's tone that down, or let's tweak it like this. And then I think over time they've come to realize, no, I'm afraid that's what the game is. Yeah. The game is a game about pirates. Yeah. And that's going to happen.
This is where product, development comes in, and the tricky parts of it. And if you and I both being business and industry nerds, to me the most interesting kind of case of this was when Nintendo launched the Wii, because they were on equal footing with all the other big platforms as a hardcore gaming platform, but they very much clearly decided to, we're going to try a different strategy, and we're going to go for a much wider kind of audience, and thereby forsake some of that hardcore audience. But that gamble very much paid off. They positioned themselves completely differently and outsold both of the other platforms put together. But the pain of that was that they had a lot of hardcore players who were looking to their platform for hardcore games, and they were not quite getting them.
No.
So in Nintendo's case, I think that they pivoted away from the strategy. For us, it was about finding like, who is the game for? We don't want the game just for the Arma and Tarkov players, but we also don't want it only for the PvP COD players either. So who is this for really?
I guess that's the journey you're on.
Yeah.
What's really fascinating about it, I found, is there's a Helldivers movie.
Yes.
Right? How's that gone down with the team?
I should say that this is not like, we are a game studio. We're lucky to work with a company that also has a very strong film division. And my sense is that when they want something done and see that there's something to capitalize on, they've been pretty good at moving on it. Sony has a bunch of really great people that we talk to on the regular. We talk about the IP. We talk about the game, where it's headed. We talk about our capabilities, and they're running the movie. We're super excited to see what comes of that. It's Hollywood, so who knows? But we are so excited to see if we can take some of the things that the community have made, like the children's hospital thing. The planet got blown up. If these things can be referenced in the movie, that's made by the players. That would be so cool. We would love to see all those cosplaying people have, background extra parts in the movie. But I tell people, please do not email me about getting parts in the movie. I have zero say in that. But we are super excited to see that come to life on some level. We saw Helldivers being featured in the Secret Level episode, which was super cool. And we're kind of reeling, understanding how big of an IP this is, because like, and this is one of the big challenges for the studio. Like, we are the same people we were 12 months and a week ago, right? But we're also not the same, because suddenly now we're playing in a different league. We're playing like Division 3, and now we're in Champions League, right? And it takes time for us to kind of figure that out, that we're being held up to a different standard and scrutinized against a different standard. So while a lot of studios will look at us, or people will look at us and say like, they're a biggest fully established studio, but we're like, yeah, but we were quite, indie and learning the ropes just 12 months ago. We don't naturally we need to rise to the occasion and fully realize that. So, but there's a bit of a lagging effect to that as we kind of catch up.
If you could pick 3 lessons that you think the industry should know from what you've learned over the last 9 months, I guess, what would your 3 be?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's really important. I take this with me from the Paradox days as well, but I think it's incredibly true still for our game. You have to eat your own dog food. We talk to the community all the time. We read what they post. We play the game, and we stay in touch with them. They pay our salaries. They have created this success, and we need to listen to them. And we succeed the most when we give players what they want. But I will balance this out with, we have a lot of different voices. And our job is it's kind of a doctor-patient relationship. If the patient comes in and says, I have a pain in my foot, can you please amputate it? Our job is not to amputate the foot, but to figure out what will fix the problem. And we, as medical experts, hopefully be able to, suggest other solutions that will have the problems fixed. And we have a lot of people screaming for amputations. We don't want to amputate foots. So that's, I think, one of the big things. And I see this fumbling happening in the industry quite often. And this comes back to, I think, PlayStation's strength as a partner. Like, sometimes there are directives, strategic, from big companies that come and say, you have to do this because X, Y, and Z. And the directives that we are being given are the same desires that we have, that we see mirrored in the wants of our customers and players, and that we would like to see ourselves. Like, I'm big on just being truthful and authentic about the stuff, because if you give them what they want and they'll tell you what you think, you can have a healthy relationship. But if you're trying to put lipstick on a pig and sell it like something else, that's when you run into trouble. So I think that those are one of the learnings. I think a second one is that we shouldn't take yourself too seriously. Like, this is a fun game. And one of the reasons we get away with this still fumbling and screwing up from time to time is that we show people that we're still human. We go to work every day like everyone else. Our job happens to make a game. Sometimes we have good days and sometimes we have bad days. And if people understand that there are humans on the other side with families and jobs, there's a little bit more understanding. And I think that we've built goodwill and trust that even if we'll fumble from time to time, we'll still do right by them and come back and do the right stuff. So maintaining and building that relationship. And I think the third learning, maybe, this is more, and we've touched upon this, I think that it comes back to sustainable growth. I wish that our industry hadn't shed almost, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 jobs the past 2 years. And the reason for that is that a lot of people in the top were making very unsound business decisions, and there's very little accountability in their part. Who among these executives is stepping down from the positions because they took these shitty decisions or slashing their salaries? That's not generally happening. What's happening is that regular folks, regular developers are paying the cost of that. And I think that that's a terrible way to manage and run our industry. And just because you can hire or grow and triple in size in 6 months doesn't mean you should, or that it's the best thing for the studio's long-term health and also business health, I would say. Yeah, I would say that.
So it's just because you can grow doesn't mean you should grow. It's, try and keep the humanity and the connection with the players so they see the human side of you as a studio. Yeah. And then I guess there's the working with the community to work out what it is they actually want from their game.
Yeah. And I'm not saying don't grow, but do it in a way where you don't have to then let go of 1/3 of the company because you made stupid decisions.
Yeah.
Like, try to be sustainable in that. So I'm not going to go out and hire 100 people. I would like to hire 100 people and help people in the industry, but like my first priority is just to make sure that people have jobs for many years.
You've got to think about your team as much as the people bringing it. Well, I'm wary of the time, but I mean, You are an industry podcaster yourself, and there's a lot of negativity around the games industry at this point in time. How do you feel about the industry overall outside of the mistakes it's made in recent history?
You can be a little bit cynical where we are, but I think that there's light still. What was it? What was the John McCain quote in 2008 before the US economy crashed? The fundamentals of our economy is strong. I mean, I'll use the same quote. I think the fundamentals of the games industry are strong in the sense that I don't see people playing less. That's not happening. It's not like people are shifting away from their gaming habits into consuming other forms of media. I mean, gaming is strong in itself. And there is a whole generation of Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft players constantly growing up, becoming a little bit older, having more disposable income, and gaming is fully ingrained in how they play games. I have an 11-year-old daughter. You talk to her classmates, it doesn't matter what gender we're talking about, everyone plays a game on some level. This is fundamentally different compared to 10, 15, 20 years ago when you and I grew up.
Yeah.
We were a minority back then.
Yeah. There used to be a time it was just kids and people who identified as gamers. You didn't have it. It's not. It's ubiquitous.
It's truly ubiquitous, and not everyone would describe themselves as gamers, but they end up playing a lot of games, and it's a social space and all of that. Yeah. And all of these things are pervasive and going to be driving. Games are not going anywhere. We're stronger than ever. What is happening, however, is that there are a number of dinosaurs in the industry and big entities that are looking at their playbooks and realizing they're out of position. When you have an industry that is changing this fast, having games that take 4 to 6 years to make is just strategically poor. My fundamental belief, and my good friend Maria Cornelius is our chief product officer, says this all the time. The best way to become an expert at something is to make many repeated bets over and over. Do the same thing over and over and you will achieve mastery. But if your bet cycle is 6 and 7 years, it's really, really, really hard to hit the landing. I think that Concord was probably a good call when it was signed initially 8 years ago. Overwatch was maybe in a vulnerable state and looked good at the time. And then over time, you do this kind of salami negotiation with yourself. And then 4 years in, you're like, well, it's sunk cost fallacy. You have to keep going.
Yeah.
And it's terrible for the industry when these bets don't pay off. And I think the trick for some of the big companies is that you can't ask a 300-person team to divide themselves into 30 10-man teams and have them put out games, because it's a different skill set.
Yeah.
And what we're noticing now, and it was very, poignant in the sense that Helldivers and Palworld came out roughly at the same time, and both became super big smash hits. I think they've sold many more copies than we have, but relatively speaking, they were much smaller projects and games than any of their peers. So if I'm managing a giant ass portfolio, I should be asking myself, why am I spending all the money on 300-person studios when there are teams of 15 to 70 people doing more successful things?
I did this analysis for a company the day, and the best-selling video games in Europe, so the top 5 new games released last year, right? So it's Call of Duty and FIFA at the top, right? That's where they always sit.
No.
Then it's Helldivers, the third best-selling new release last year. And then it's Space Marine 2.
Yeah.
Then it was, Power World's probably in there. The Power World data is not quite there. And Black Myth's probably in there globally. Yeah. But then it's Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
But where's Dragon Age?
Yeah.
Number 68.
Yeah.
Star Wars Outlaws 47.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth just inside the top 50. And these are games with big teams, big budgets, big brands.
And I think the big difference between, I'm the chairman of the board at Headed Horse as well, and many years of Paradox, and follow a lot of different publishers closely. The challenge is that everyone needs new playbooks, almost everyone. And there are some exceptions to the rule. And I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't go as far as saying that we're a black swan event. But clearly some things worked out. And there are Larians that can pull Baldur's Gate 3 off. I don't think others can go and then say, you know what, if Larian can do it, then so can we. It doesn't work that way. But the trick is that the bottom has fallen out of the industry, at least on the PC side and maybe on the console side as well, where you could expect to sell 300K of a game 3 years ago. That's 30K now, or maybe 3K. There is no lower end. And that is super scary when you have a cost base like Ubisoft or some of the bigger players.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're 2K, you're kind of safe because you have GTA, that is basically an industry in itself. But everyone else, unless you have a very focused business like Paradox does and some of the other companies, you're in a very tight spot. And it's going to be really interesting to see. Now the waters are receding now, and we're going to be seeing who's bathing naked the next few years.
I'm conscious of the time, so I'm going to have to stop there. But thank you so much for your time, Shams. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed this greatly.
And good luck with the journey that you've got ahead.
Thank you.
Are video game subscription services a good or bad thing?
Bad.
Which Star Wars trilogy was the best, original, prequel, or sequel?
Come on. It's the original, of course.
Will game streaming ever become a mainstream proposition?
Yes.
What's the first thing you do when you get into work in the morning?
Check Discord and Reddit.
Will Nintendo Switch 2 outsell Nintendo Switch 1?
Yes.
If you could be CEO of any other games company, which one would it be?
No company.
That's a dodge. Best album of all time?
Oh, wow. Californication? Oh, that's a bad answer.
What one thing should games companies think about but probably aren't?
What the players want.